In this video, we will go through the group privileges and user setup. The access to the system is controlled by groups, and each of those groups has a specific amount of privileges that determine what the user assigned to the group can do and see within the system. Here is a list of the different privileges that can be assigned to a group. It is generally recommended to set up a number of groups with different privileges. For example, the technicians group with access to areas in the system that would be of interest to the users assigned to that group. Or we can also set up a supervisors group, which will have access to all areas of the system. So now that we have covered the group privileges, let's also check out the user setup. When setting up a new user, a certain amount of information about the user will be required. For example, the user ID, a username, and also an email address for that user, which will be used for notifications about reverted or rejected work orders. You can then manually select each company and department from the list, like I am doing here, and select which specific ones you would like the user to have access to. Doing so will give the user the ability to only see the instruments from the specific companies and departments that you have assigned them to. If you'd like the user to see all companies and departments and all instruments related to those, you can simply unselect the Use Filtering checkbox. By default, the Use Filtering checkbox will be selected, so a user will only be able to see the instruments of the companies and departments they are assigned to. On the Other tab, you'll be able to give some additional information about the user. You can add a resume, you can add a training record of additional training they may have received. You can also add a job title or job specification. You can also add the hourly rates of the user, the standard rates, the overtime rates, and the double time rates. This will allow you to record the time and cost of each user. On the Privileges tab, the user privileges are determined by the group the user is assigned to, and you can do bulk editing of privileges for a number of users by simply editing a group. You also have the KPIs that can be made available for a user and the orders in which they will appear for that user. To change the order in which they will appear, simply select one of the KPIs and use the up button. In addition to this, you can set up columns and grids from the Columns tab. This will allow you to select a certain number of columns and the order they appear in the different work screens. Like with the KPIs, you can select in what order they go by simply selecting one of the columns and using the up or down buttons. This function is available for each of the work schedule screens and will also determine what will be included on the Excel export. As an example, I'll be showing you what the work screen will look like for two different users. One will have all columns available, and the second user will only have a limited amount of columns. As you can see, this user has all columns selected, which means the user will be able to see all columns and fields on the work screen. For the second user, we've gone ahead and selected only a few columns to show you an example of what the work screen would look like with less columns.